Parampara, right, starting right from Krishna. I don't know if you have seen, but let me see. You know, the whole line of Parampara. Of course, there are four bona fide sampradayas. So it starts right from Krishna because Krishna is giving this knowledge. This is not a man-made knowledge. This is coming from a higher source. And Krishna is giving this knowledge, and also it's actually coming down through the parampara because this knowledge has to be kept intact. In fact, one of the sessions we talked about how Krishna had to repeat this knowledge to Arjuna 5,000 years ago because the system of knowledge as it was passed down through this lineage, through this parampara, was actually broken, and then the knowledge was lost. So Krishna had to speak it again 5,000 years ago in the battle of Kurukshetra to Arjuna. So these set of Mangalacharan prayers, offer our gratitude to this parampara, to this lineage, of teachers who have kept this knowledge intact and have passed it down from one generation to another for benefiting us, to benefit us. Because why the knowledge has to be kept intact? Because as I said, it's the source is Krishna himself. It's not man-made knowledge. And when it's passing down from one generation to another, from one in the lineage, the knowledge can also become corrupted. The knowledge could be lost. I mean, people can add, subtract, all those things are happening, right? So, the knowledge can be lost. So, these teachers they're doing a great service for humanity. How? Because they are selflessly promoting this knowledge, but keeping it intact and authentic. Like how actually Krishna presents us to Arjuna, that's how we want to understand this knowledge. So they keep this intact. And they keep this intact because of their purity. Because if you're motivated, right? If you're motivated to make money, if you're motivated to gain followers, if you're motivated, then you can actually, instead of presenting Bhagavad Gita, you may think that, okay, who will follow this message of Bhagavad Gita? Let me give my own interpretation, add some things that remove things that people will not like, add things people will like, and so that this my interpretation of Bhagavad Gita will become popular and I'll become famous. So there are many people like that who actually comment on Bhagavad Gita to, without fully understanding the purport of Bhagavad Gita. But then there is people who come down in the disciplic succession who actually present it in a very authentic way, who actually are pure in themselves, pure by themselves because they don't have any material motivation. The only motivation they have is to serve all of us. It is the only motivation they have, like how Prabhupada actually came to the West. The only motivation he came to the West, he actually came to the West at the age of 70 to give this message of Bhagavad Gita to the whole world, to especially the English-speaking countries. Now, why did he have to do that? He didn't have to do that at the age of 70. I mean, who would want to, come for the first time to the United States, at the age of 70 with knowing nobody, and with very, 40 rupees in hand. But he came because out of his compassion, or to show his compassion to all humanity. Because, people are suffering in this world. To show compassion, he came. So that was the only motivation. So they do a lot of sacrifice to share this knowledge, and because all these great teachers do a lot of sacrifice to share this knowledge, we start with a prayer of offering our gratitude to them. So that is what this set of Mangalacharan prayers is, to actually offer gratitude to our previous teachers. So we can all recite it together. I know it's some of the Sanskrit verses may be long, but you can just follow along. Over a period of time you will get it. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Nilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandho Jagatpate Jago Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you. So now we'll go to a quick recap. So what was discussed in the last week's session or any of the previous sessions? Anyone would like to quickly start off and get the ball rolling? What was discussed in the last week's session?
Mind is like a child. Mind was compared to child, and then mind was compared to elephant.
Okay.
Angry elephant.
Untrained elephant.
Yeah.
And a monkey.
Monkey.
Okay.
That
Okay.
friend.
The mind is compared to an unruly mind, child, or an untrained elephant. Yes. Yes, Shreya.
We have to follow the ABCD to control our mind.
How to train the mind? Because we talked about how an untrained mind looks like, and then of course how do we train the mind? And then Shreyan said ABCD. I mean, don't think that he's a small kid. That's why he's saying ABCD, right? What does ABCD stand for?
Association.
A stands for
Association.
association. B stands for books, transcendental books, especially spiritual books like the Bhagavad Gita or the Srimad Bhagavatam. C stands for chanting, and D stands for diet. Wow, all of you are pro now. Very nice. So how will this help in training the mind? Anybody here who's coming for the first time? Okay, there are a couple of people. Welcome. I mean, as we are going through these sessions, you will be able to catch some of these points. And if you have any questions, anytime you can pause and ask. So how does this method of ABCD will actually help you to control the mind or train the mind?
Association of good people, we will get the good learnings, we follow good. By reading good books, we learn good.
Okay, nice. The association, we actually will cultivate the desire to basically, follow that association, right? If you are an association of people who are very spiritually advanced, then we will also cultivate the desire to follow in their footsteps, or basically it's inspiration, right? In association we can get inspired, and when we get inspired, then we want, like a role model, right? We want to act like them, or we want to behave like them, or we want to come to their level, and so on and so forth. So in association we get inspired. So association is one of the keys, and also we learn in association. And then books, by reading the books, it expands our knowledge, and then we are able to apply this knowledge to deal with the mind, and how we can actually make the mind our friend. And then how about C? Chanting. So chanting, mantra, meditation. Of course, meditation itself has, it's to help to regulate our attention. It's to help to try to focus the mind, to regulate the mind, to regulate our attention through which actually is displayed through the mind. So chanting or the mantra meditation also purifies the mind, right? It purifies the mind. Like how, there's a purifying agent. We talked about this, right? Like if you get a stain in a cloth, right? And then you add, what do you add? You add some kind of a bleach or solvent. I don't know if you add bleach to a cloth, but you add a solvent or a solution to basically which removes the stain, and then it purifies the cloth. So similarly, the mantra meditation also acts as a very powerful cleansing agent, because it's the holy names of the Lord are not different than the Lord, and it's all purifying. So Krishna is all purifying, and this is Krishna shows again and again in many different pastimes. Krishna shows that how he is all purifying. So by coming in contact with Krishna, like for example, Arjuna was very confused, but coming in contact with Krishna, he became enlightened. So similarly, we can also, coming in contact with Krishna through the holy names, we can also become enlightened and purified and enlightened. And that's how once the mind becomes purified, then what happens? The mind starts to act as one's friend. And then finally, diet, D. How does the diet help? Yes.
It makes your consciousness more active, more
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, you are what you eat. You heard this phrase, right? I would just extend that and say that you are what you ingest. Right? We don't eat just with our, of course, we eat with our mouth, but we ingest many things through different senses. Right? We take in things through our eyes, we take in things through our nose, of course, through our tongue, and then so we are ingesting through a lot of things through our senses, and ultimately that determines who we are, because we are what we ingest. Because what goes in is what is going to come out. And what is anybody remember the principle that Gigo principle? What is the expansion for that?
Garbage in,
Yeah, garbage in, garbage out. So if you put garbage, what is going to come out is garbage. But if you put good things, then what is going to come out? Yeah, good in and good out, or garbage in and garbage out. Any other points remember from any of the previous sessions? Yes.
The soul is always in a state of Satchidananda.
The soul's intrinsic nature is Satchit and Ananda. Very nice. Thank you. Yes, Shriyan.
Mine was compared to if it's with strong intelligence, then it's compared to a mom, but then with
It's compared to what?
a mom, like a person, because
It's compared to a mom.
she can handle
Okay.
the child.
Oh, okay.
And then, but
Oh, I see.
elder sibling is compared to weak intelligence.
Nice. Yeah. You have a good mom. Yeah, the adult basically, right? Intelligence is compared to the adult in the room, and then the mind is compared to the child, right? Yeah, that's right. So the adult should be in control, or the child should be in control?
Adult.
The adult should be in control. If the adult is in control, then the whole house will be clean, right? No? Yeah, the adult, if adult is in control, of course the adult is expected to be responsible. When the adult is in control, then everything will be as planned and as organized. The child is in control, then everything will be chaotic. So similarly, in our inner world, there is an adult and there is a child. The adult is the spiritually equipped intelligence. The spiritually equipped intelligence is the adult, and the child is the mind. So the intelligence has to be in charge in our lives. Then our lives will be organized and will go as planned. Anyway, those are some thoughts. So thank you for all the recaps. So here is Krishna gives us hierarchy. In the third chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Indriyani Pranyaho Indriyabhya Paramanaha Manasastu parabuddha yo buddhi paratastu saha. So he says that the senses, and above the senses is the mind, and above the mind is intelligence, and above the intelligence is the, yeah, of course he doesn't say that in the verse, but above the intelligence, Krishna says is the self or the Atma. So this is the hierarchy, and we want to establish this hierarchy within our inner world. And of course we talked about the horses, right? Anybody can explain this? Okay, Shriyan, wait. Anybody else? Okay, Prashant.
Horses are senses.
Okay.
The strings, that is mind.
Reins represents the
Reins
mind.
is mind.
Okay.
And then the person who's managing the reins.
The driver.
The driver is intelligence.
The driver is the intelligence, and the
so
passenger is the soul. Very nice. Yeah. So this is the analogy, and this is represents our whole existence.
Basically, it shows that intelligence is controlling mind,
Right.
and that's why we are going forward. But yeah, if there is some disturbance, if it is not managed properly, then mind will take over.
Yeah. If it is not managed properly, then if the horses and the reins just take over, and then the horses are pulling in different directions, and they just run wild, then what will happen? Generally, that is the life of a modern man. The senses are running wild, and then they're just going behind the senses, and then they are having such a wild ride. And then sometimes they are thinking, why did I, end up in a ditch? Of course, you ended up in a ditch because you didn't control the horses. So this is the life of a modern man or a woman. So, but the Bhagavad Gita teaches us how we should actually, this is the hierarchy, and how we should actually control the mind using the intelligence, the faculty of intelligence. And that's what this chariot represents. It's such a beautiful analogy, right? I mean, it describes our inner world. Who can give us the Vedas give such a beautiful example to help us understand what is happening inside of us. So next time you find yourself in a ditch, then you know what has happened. But and that's the way we learn. At least if we have this knowledge, then we can actually learn. Okay, what are the mistakes I've committed here, and how can I learn from this, especially with respect to spiritual knowledge.
Is this Vedas or?
It's both.
Yeah.
Both. Sorry, Sahit. So Vedas, the essence. Vedas are voluminous, but essence of all the Vedas is right here in 700 verses. That's why Krishna is a master teacher, right? If you can actually, if you have, Vedas, this house will not be enough to fill the volume of the text of Vedas. This house will not be enough. Maybe even 2-3 houses will not be enough. I don't know how much volume how many texts the Vedas has. Millions and millions of texts. But then who's going to study all those things? Who has time? First of all, most of it is lost, right? And who's going to study and who's going to understand the essence and so on and so forth? But Krishna gives us all the essence here, right here in 700 verses. All the Vedas. Okay, so the solution we talked about: association, street chanting, and diet, or prasada, ABCD. And this will change our life. This will transform our life. So we don't have to give up anything. And generally, people have this understanding of spirituality means I have to give up everything and go to the Himalayas. That's not what spirituality. I mean, that's a very rudimentary understanding of spirituality. That's not a very mature understanding of spirituality. But that's not what Krishna advises Arjuna to do in the Bhagavad Gita. But what we have to do is, we don't have to let anything go, but we just have to include few things into our lives. What are those few things we have to include in our lives? We have given you a very simple formula, which is A, B, C, and D. Get some regular association, include that into your life. Read Bhagavad Gita, a few verses every day. Chant few rounds. Start with few rounds or one round every day, and then manage your diet. Be careful of your diet because you are what you eat. It affects you, right? And that's what we will talk about today. Whatever you eat, it's going to affect you. So be very careful about what you put in. Not just eating, but what you put in through all your different senses. So now we will come to today's session, which is moods and moods. So here, of course, you may have guessed what modes mean. Here, the three modes of material nature. So, of course, we saw in the last few sessions how internals affect the external, right? Depending on what, how is your mood, and and we just talked a lot about how we feed our senses and what, ego principle and so on and so forth. So internal certainly affects the external. How about externals affect our internals? Do you think that happens?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Right? Externals affect our internals. Let me give you, of course, we will come to, how does this externals affect our internals? So that will be the main point of discussion for today's session. How does externals affect our internals? Of course, we see, we are living in this world, this is the material energy. How does this material energy affect us? Right? How does it affect us, or does it affect us? So we'll talk about that today. So let me give you a scenario. So let's say let's say you're sitting in, not Shyam's house. I don't want to take Shyam's house. Let's say you're sitting in a theater, right? And then suddenly there is a huge fire that then comes up in a theater. Now, what do you think are possible reactions of people? What are different ways people do you think that people will react to such a situation? It's like suddenly a huge fire comes up. How will different people react? Yes.
They'll be like nervous and like they'll be scared.
Yeah, some people will be nervous and scared. Who said?
Yeah, running here. There.
Running here and there, okay. And then somebody said panic. Yes.
Panic. Reach for the fire extinguisher.
Look for the fire extinguisher. Good one.
Find the nearest exit.
Find the nearest exit. Yeah, good one. Any other?
Call 911.
Any other thoughts?
Call 911.
Call 911. Okay. Okay.
Just
Sure.
sit
Yeah.
on the seat.
Just sit on the seat.
Let everyone be
Everyone is running.
calm and then
Right.
Please take the water bottles and pour it on the floor.
Take the water bottles and pour it on the fire. Yeah. Yes, Anusha.
So there's the fight, flight, and freeze response. So either they'll fight the fire with a fire extinguisher or something, they'll flight or try to run away, or they'll freeze in their seat. So I think that covers all three grounds.
Yeah, either they'll be sitting in the seat scared, or they'll be panicking, running here and there, or they'll probably look for a solution. All right? You can see how, thank you for summarizing that. Let's give the kids a round of applause for the wonderful responses. So you can see that actually there are, no two person will react the same way. Or in fact, the same person will not react the same way for the same situation on two different days. Right? It's all going to be so different actually. So some people are going to, try to proactively find a solution. They have clarity of thought. They don't get bogged down by the panic or the stress, but they're trying to find a way out for themselves and for others. Some people are running here and there, but they don't know exactly what they're running for. And some people are just, they just feel very scared and hopeless, and then probably they'll start crying or they just start screaming and so on and so forth. So you can see that, so many people react in so many different ways. Now, where is this variety coming from? And if you look around in the world, I just gave you a simple scenario, how so many different reactions come about in this one scenario, but just think about the whole world. So many people acting, and there are so many objects. There's so much variegatedness in this world. No two people are the same. They have different natures. We all have different features. Everything is so different. It's And so where does all these variegatedness come from? So that's where why are people the way they are? They're habituated. People are habituated in different ways. Everybody is different. Their behaviors are different. Lifestyles are different. How they react is different. Their natures are different. So how come all these differences has come about? So that's where we understand about the three modes of material nature. And just to give an example, does anybody know what I'm trying to tell in this picture?
Primary colors.
The primary colors. Yeah, RGB. These are the primary colors. And if you mix and match these primary colors in different ratios, what you get?
Different shades.
Yeah, you get all the other millions of shades. That you look in a paint, a paint store. If you look at the book, which has all the different kinds of shades. Where does all these different kinds of shades are coming from? By combination of RGB to a different degrees. And just by this combination of different degrees, you get all these different variations. So similarly, Krishna talks about that there are three modes of material nature, which is mode of Sattva Guna, Rajo Guna and Tamo Guna. These three modes is what actually combines in many different ratios, in many different degrees, and there you see all different kinds of objects, all different kinds of people, all different kinds of natures, all different kinds of behaviors, lifestyles, symptoms, everything is coming from a combination of these three gunas. Where we become a product of these three gunas, and a combination of these three gunas defines our material nature. And that's how each one of us, we are actually a unique combination of these three gunas. Of course, there can be a predominating mode, but we are a unique combination of these three modes. And that's how we see this all kinds of variegatedness. We see in this world, it comes from just a combination of these three. Like how all millions of shades come, combination of RGB. Of course, Krishna says in the 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it's a very beautiful verse. Now let me read the Sanskrit, because we are originally pure spiritual entities. And, because Krishna extends that to say that, aham bija pradapita, sarva yoneshu kaunteya, murtaya sambhavantiya, tasam brahma mahad yonir aham bija pradapita. Krishna says, I am the seed-giving Father. We are all, part and parcel of the divine or the supreme. Of course, supreme, him, is spiritual, and we are also spiritual because we are part and parcel of the supreme. So originally we are all spiritual in nature. We are pure and spiritual in nature. Like this white bulb. We are all pure and spiritual in nature because Krishna says, we are children of the Supreme. We are children of the Divine. So Krishna says, I am the seed-giving Father. But then what happens to us? That is defined in the 5th verse. It says, Sattvam Rajastama iti guna prakriti sambhava nibannanti mahabaho dehe dehinam abhyam. So the material nature consists of the three modes. What are those? Sattva, which is called as mode of goodness. And then second one is Rajas, which is mode of passion. Third one is Tamas, mode of ignorance. So the material nature, the material energy has these three modes. Like how you have 3 grades of fuel. You have 3 grades of fuel, right? What are those? Right, 87, 89 and 91. So which one is better?
91.
91, of course. Of course, most of us don't use it. But why it's better? Why?
Clean.
Yeah, it's more clean. It's more refined. So 91 is better, right? So similarly, of the three modes, you can see three modes, you can compare it to either RGB or you can compare it to these three grades of fuel, 87, 89 and 91. So what do you think 87 represents? Tamas. It's tamas. And then 89 you can compare it to rajas. And 91 is compared to sattva. So from that example you can also understand that sattva guna is more refined. Where if one is conditioned by the sattva guna, then one has a richer experience of life, richer quality of life. If one is conditioned by rajaguna, one has a mediocre quality of life. One is conditioned by tamaguna, then one has, very, I would say, subdued or low quality of experience of life, actually, by tamaguna. And we will talk about this. So here Krishna says, when the eternal living entity, the spiritual spark, the spirit soul, comes in contact with the material nature. When the eternal living entity comes in contact with material nature, O mighty and Arjuna, he becomes conditioned by these three modes. So when the spiritual living entity comes in contact with material nature, we become conditioned by a combination of these three modes. So that the material energy itself has a way of influencing us or impelling us. The material energy is impelling us all the time to engage in a certain activity, to try to enjoy objects of this material world, to try to enjoy life in a certain way, to try to have a certain lifestyle and so on and so forth. So the material nature is impelling us. And when we choose a certain way, a certain mode of living in this world, in terms of what we do, how we choose, what our lifestyle is, and so on and so forth, then we become conditioned by a certain mixture of the mode, and we become either it can be sattva, it's always a mixture, but it can be predominated by sattva guna, rajaguna, or tamaguna, and we can go over more examples. Like for example, we talked about how in the fire, when the fire was raging, then different people reacted in different ways. Now let's take a guess. So somebody who was actually, didn't panic, but was very, actively looking for a solution to help oneself and to help all others. Do you think which mode he is conditioned by? Sattva-guna. It's obvious. It's Sattva-guna. But a person is running here and there and probably sometimes screaming and trying to find a solution, but not necessarily arriving at a solution. Such a person is in the Rajaguna. He's active, but he doesn't have clarity of thought. He is active. That's why, I said another example is sometimes we may feel very busy, but not really productive. Right? Sometimes we are really active and productive. So that which mode do you think we are operating under? Sattva-guna. We are very we feel restless, hyperactive, and trying to be productive, but not really being productive. And at the end of the day, we feel a little burnt out. That is Rajoguna, mode of passion. And then there's somebody in the situation where the fire has broken out. They're sitting in the seat and crying. Feeling helpless. They are governed by Tamaguna, actually. And we can see, of course, some of the situations is not so black and white. It can be a mixture of these three modes, but we can see how these modes are conditioning us, and then we act according to these conditionings. Yes, Anirudh.
So, when you say we become conditioned, are you referring to we as a soul or body?
Yeah, that's a good point. So the soul never gets touched by the material energy because it's a categorically different energy. The conditioning is happening at the level of the material faculties we have, which means all the other faculties like the mind, the body, and so on and so forth. So that's why the conditionings are happening. But because we closely identify with these faculties, and that's why we also act according to these conditionings.
Yeah, so when you said like the soul gets in contact with the material world,
Right.
but the material world and the body is getting conditioned by these three.
Right. Right. So you get a certain faculty, and then you start to condition yourself. You know, these faculties get conditioned by our choices, the choices that we make. But we are, I mean, the soul itself. I mean, it's a more technical understanding. The soul itself is pure, but because the soul identifies with these faculties, it also thinks that it is conditioned. It's like it's the same thing. It's the same concept of the car. Again, did you say your favorite car?
Ramurthy
Right.
He was the example last time.
So what was the favorite car we discussed? The favorite car
Ferrari.
types. Huh?
Ferrari.
Oh, Ferrari, right. Yeah, I mean, let's say you just got the car and then you just park, Shyam Jagannath Prabhu, Shyam's home, near Shyam's home, and then suddenly, either there is you go out and then suddenly you find, somebody just scratched, brand new car, and then how do you feel? You feel pain, right? You feel that somebody has just ripped your heart off, actually, but that's not true. It's the car has been scratched, but you are different than the car, but you experience it. Why experience it? Because we closely associate with the car. It's the same thing. It's the same way. Yes.
There are other gunas, right? Like growth. I mean,
Right. So no.
Why these three are picked up?
No, the other qualities. So these are the three modes of material nature, and they exhibit all different qualities. Right. So kama, krodha, all these things are a byproduct of the activation of these gunas. So there are many qualities one can actually exhibit, or behaviors one can exhibit, and such qualities are actually a product of these three modes.
Basically, these three are the primary colors and those are the shades.
They are byproducts, I would say.
Okay.
They're the byproducts. Anyway, so yeah. So how a bulb, it's white in light and it's pure, but if it's covered by a filament, then it starts to exhibit a different color. So similarly, our soul also gets covered by a conditioned mind, and then it starts to exhibit different behaviors. And Krishna, so then how does this modes work? So Krishna, so the way the modes work is, as we talked about, it's there everywhere, in the sense that how our senses are conditioned by these modes, so how we perceive the information, how we process it, because the mind is also conditioned by these modes, and how we perceive also by our own nature. It's all conditioned. The mode is affecting all these things. Yeah, the modes affect all our choices and behaviors because we are interacting with these faculties and identifying with this faculty. So now we'll talk about mode of goodness. So Krishna says, "O sinless one, mode of..." See, these are the symptoms of mode of... So one who is conditioned by mode of goodness or sattva guna, you will see these symptoms. O sinless one, the mode of goodness, being purer than others, is eliminating and frees one from all sinful reactions. So great philosophers, thinkers, leaders, people who are thoughtful, who have clarity of thought, who are disciplined in their lifestyle, and so on and so forth, they actually are conditioned by mode of goodness. So those situated in that mode becomes conditioned by a sense of happiness and knowledge. So they are conditioned by a sense of happiness and knowledge. So you can see, the people they are conditioned by, they have sense of happiness and knowledge because they're very knowledgeable. Like for example, philosophers, they're very knowledgeable. They live a very clean life. They live a very balanced life. These are some of the symptoms of people in the mode of goodness. And because they live a very balanced life, they live a pure life, they live based on the principles of the Bhagavad Gita and so on and so forth, they have a sense of happiness. They are more happy in life because they live by the principles of higher principles, especially spiritual principles. So because of that, they condition their life, the symptoms of their life is conditioned by a sense of knowledge and happiness. And then rajas, the mode of passion, is born of unlimited desires and longings, O son of Kunti, and because of this, the embodied living entity is bound to material fruitive actions. So if you want one verse to describe Bay Area, here you go. So it's born of unlimited material desires. I want X. I want one car, two cars. I want $1 million, $2 million, $3 million. So there is no end to the amount of material desire. I want to become a millionaire. No, I want to become an entrepreneur. Then I want to become a millionaire. No, I want to join the billionaire band. Now, so there is no end. Of course, we're not saying ambitions are bad. It's just that, you have to see, mode of passion means there is no balance. So they have these unlimited desires, and they have this drive, and they want to work hard. Whenever you have to fulfill your desires, you have to really work very hard. And unfortunately, material desires are not fulfilling. Because even if you try, some of your material desires are fulfilled, you want to, immediately it's replaced by another material desire. So there's no end to it. It's like a hamster wheel. You've seen a hamster wheel. Hamster, keeps running and running and running. There is no end there. So similarly, material desires. If one material desire is satisfied, do we become happy and say, okay, that's enough?
No.
Do we behave like, no? That's not how we behave. We are like, okay, maybe we are satisfied for one evening. And then the next day, either, by our own volition or by, superiors' magnanimity, we have to start, we start looking at the next level, right? We started looking at, we talked about this, right? You can be happy. If you get a promotion, you can be happy for one night or one evening. The next day you go, the manager is looking at you. Okay, how much more workload can I give this guy? Even if you're thinking, okay, let me enjoy one more day, but others will not allow you to do that. So it's born of unlimited desires. And because desires are not satisfying, we keep replacing with other desires. And to fulfill the material desires, one has to work very hard, right? I'm sure all of you know. How many of you recently got a promotion? It's hard work. It's not given to you, on a silver platter. You have to really work hard and pure, Of course, that doesn't mean hard work is appreciated, but if you're doing hard work just for fulfilling some material desire, what value is it going to add to your life? That's the question you need to ask. Okay, hard work is itself not wrong, but why am I doing that hard work? So if you're able to answer that question, if you're able to convince your heart why I'm doing this, if it's for a higher cause, if it's for a higher purpose, then that hard work makes sense, because that hard work will lead to not just material benefits but also spiritual benefits. But when that hard work is just directed towards some material desires, then that's not a strong why. Because it's not a strong why, because any of the material things we accumulate, we have to lose it. It's not going to stay with us forever. So it's like, you really work hard and build a house. And then somebody's asking, you've been building this house for many months. And then somebody's coming and asking, why are you building this house? You're working so hard. I see, I'm passing by every day. And you're working so hard. Why are you doing this? And then the person says, well, I'm working so hard to finish this house, and at the end of it, I just want to light a fire. I destroy this. Right? And what would you think about that person? Your hard work is, that's appreciable, man, but your reason for why are you working so hard is so foolish, actually. But this is our story also. Because why are we working so hard? To make this, to basically take care of this body, or to make this body or whatever relations extended to this body, to make it comfortable. right? That's why we are working so hard. But at the end of life, what we do to this body?
Burn it.
We, just dump the body and burn it.
We are in a lot of destruction now. We
Right.
already burnt a theater, we already burnt a house.
No, because you're talking about the modes, right?
Destroyed a Ferrari.
He's on fire. He's on fire.
Or maybe more of passion. So we have to see, the real question that we have to ask ourselves. It's not going at 100 miles per hour in a Ferrari. But then if you stop the person, ask the person where you're going, the person says, I don't know, I'm just going. 100 miles per hour, looks like it's a lot. It looks like, he's driving at such a fast pace. But then if he doesn't know where he is going, then what is the point of all of it? So similarly, we have to really pause and reflect and question ourselves as to why we are doing what we are doing. Yes.
Just now we touched Ferrari going speed, right? I love driving. I love driving fast. I try not to get tickets. I want to go to Autobahn and drive fast, right? So driving fast itself is fun for me.
Mm-hmm.
Should I have a destination or just be in the present, enjoy driving fast? What's wrong with that?
Well, the problem with that is if you don't know where you're going, and that's what the Bhagavad Gita is trying to tell us. Right? We can go, we can have a good life, we can actually try to achieve the things that we want to achieve, but unfortunately, you have to lose it all. If you don't know what exactly, you can be in the present moment.
Yeah, I'm happy and I love doing it and I'm being in the
Right,
present.
but the answer to that question is nobody is going to say the exact words when they are on a deathbed.
That's a different scenario.
Nobody is going to say that when they are on deathbed.
Agreed. Yeah.
So that's why the Bhagavad Gita is asking us to prepare.
Okay. That makes sense.
Right. Things may be good for now,
Yeah.
but that may not necessarily last. And even if one has good karma, it may last till the end of the life.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, one has to lose it all. And it's of course the Vedas are not trying to be pessimistic, but they are realistic in making us understand that actually it's a very painful experience to go through this for a soul. To go through the cycle of samsara, the cycle of birth and death, it's extremely painful for it actually. And that's why the Bhagavad Gita urges us to wake up.
Get out. Okay.
To wake up before it's too late.
Makes sense. So does that mean I have to reflect back saying that happiness is not what I have to be and I have to get out and find the true happiness? Rather than material happiness and go about to look for the spiritual happiness.
Right. And I want to solve the problems once and for all.
Got it.
It's also a philosophical perspective. It's a perspective.
Right.
So Bhagavad Gita broadens our perspective
Got it.
and helps us to find the true solutions of
Makes
life.
sense. Makes sense.
Yes.
Can I make one comment?
Yeah.
I think you'll cover about people in Rajogun are passionate people, what they find happiness in. People in Tamogun are
Yes.
ignorance. I think probably you'll get
Makes
some
sense.
more.
Right. So again, mode of passion we covered. Mode of ignorance. Know that the mode of darkness, mode of ignorance, is the delusion of all embodied living entities. The result of this mode are madness, indolence, and sleep, which bind the conditioned soul. Of course, we all sleep, we all take rest, but what one condition by the mode of ignorance is that he indulges in excessive sleep or excessive laziness. Some people are just like that. They just want to sit around, do nothing. And we see a lot of people like that. Right? And so the results of the ignorance is madness, indolence, and sleep, or all the excessive category. I'm not saying you have to take the right amount of sleep. For all of us to function, we have to sleep. It's a very, very important. In fact, I don't know how people. Krishna says this in the Bhagavad Gita that one has to be balanced in terms of eating, sleeping, work, recreation, and so on and so forth. It's very important because sleep itself is very, very important. And as my good friend, he says, if you sleep too much, you become lazy. If you sleep less, you become crazy. So you have to sleep the right amount of time that's required for our body. But when you do it excessively, when you're lazy, sometimes we just want to sit. And then, many times people just, I don't know what, as at least before I came to Krishna consciousness, many times I think people don't see morning, afternoon, on weekends. Probably people don't see morning, afternoon, and probably they go straight away to 4 p.m. they straight away wake up at 4 p.m. or and then the whole day they may be sitting in the couch. They may be watching, switching the TV channels, and then from one to another. And then finally it'll dawn on them, oh, I didn't, at 8 p.m. I didn't eat anything the whole day. Suddenly, this is, you can see it's excessive, indulgence in inactivity, it's not a disciplined life, that's actually tamagun. It's excessive indulgence in laziness and sleep. Yes, can you wait for, just hold your question, we'll just cover some materials and then we'll come back to your question, okay? Thank you. So, in one word, if you want to say what are the three modes, how can you describe these three modes? Sattva guna is represented by happiness. Yeah, if you see somebody just being happy, then you know that that person is conditioned by sattva guna. And then rajoguna is, one of the symptoms is restless. Somebody just walking here and there and trying to do things. Sometimes my wife tells me, you keep walking up and down. I'm trying to do something. Are you going to help me now? Then I come to sometimes when my mind spins a little fast, then I start walking here and there. So we exhibit this rajoguna, many times, but it's not, really. It's like opening. We have talked about this, right? It's like opening so many tabs, but nothing gets done. You want to get so many things done, but nothing gets done because there's no proper focus. Because focus is actually a quality in the mode of goodness. Concentration and focus is actually a quality in the mode of goodness. Discipline is actually a quality in the mode of goodness. Self-control is a quality in the mode of goodness. In rajoguna, you want to achieve a lot of things, but you are distracted by so many things. So that is actually conditioning in rajoguna. And then finally there is helpless. That's tamas. Another keyword you can describe is balance. Being balanced in life. So that's what Krishna talks about this in the Bhagavad Gita. He says, Yukta ahara viharasya, yukta chesashu karmashu, yukta swapna se bodhasya, yogo bhavati dukkha. So he says, he says to perform yoga, one has to actually be balanced. Balanced in terms of what? Balanced in terms of eating, sleeping, in terms of work and recreation. When one is balanced, then using this balance, one can actually overcome a lot of miseries in life. So sattva guna, one of the symptoms of sattva guna is being balanced. And rajas is overactive, overexertive. And tamas is inactive. So here are some symptoms again. Now goodness is happy and balanced, passion is restless and overexertive, ignorance is helpless and inactive. Anyway, Krishna discusses these three modes in many chapters. We will just give a summary. I should actually. So now is a quiz time. So having given you this, we're going to ask you, happiness. So not qualities, natures, objects, food items. Our qualities itself can be multiple things actually. For example, happiness, determination, understanding. All these things Krishna says can be conditioned by these three modes. And then he will now give verses actually which describe symptoms of each of these quality in the three modes. Now you can work it in three modes. So there is, so like that, so many things you can discuss are in three modes. Food in three, charity in three modes. So you may not have heard all these things, But Krishna gives all these different categories in 3 modes. So happiness in 3 modes, let's say. Okay, what do you think the first one, happiness in which mode the first one belong to? One of you can read this. Each one can take turn and read one paragraph, and then we can.
Actually, if you do the light on the
Okay.
so
Why don't one of you start?
Yeah, sure. And that happiness which is blind to self-realization, which is delusional from beginning to end, and which arises from sleep, laziness, and illusion.
Okay, don't say right now. Second one. Who wants to read the second one? Yes.
That which in the beginning may be just like poison, but at the end is just like nectar, and which awakens one to self-realization.
Okay. Third one. Go ahead.
That happiness which is
Derived.
from contact of the senses with their objects, in which appears like nectar at first, but poison at the end.
Okay. So what is the first one? Which mode do you think the first one is? Yeah. Tamas. Yes, correct. Very good. Let's see. Does it come all together at the same time? One at wrong. Okay.
Okay.
And what about the second one?
Sattva.
Sattva. Nice. Any other answers? No? No? Why do you think it's Sattva?
Because at the end it's
Yeah, it's self-realization and it's long-term benefit. Yeah, right? Many times we may have to undergo a little bit of sacrifice at the present moment. Like for example, Anai. Let's say Anai has an exam tomorrow. Do you have Anai? No. So let's say Anay has an exam tomorrow, and then he and his father. Sorry, Prabhu, what is it? Tejas. Prabhu, he got him a new game. And then Anay is like, yes, this is the dream of my. But Anay decides, I have an exam tomorrow, and then he has a discussion with his father, and then Anay decides, no, I'm going to actually delay this. And delay the playing of the game, but I'm going to focus on my studies right now. So it begins as a poison, it begins as a sacrifice, but then ends as a nectar, because he is sacrificing that need for instantaneous enjoyment, or need for immediately trying to instant gratification. So he's sacrificing that instant gratification, and he's actually doing what is good for him in the
future.
Long term, in the future. So he is sacrificing it, and he's studying, and then he scores very good marks, and his father is happy, and then after the exams are over, his father is allowing him to play. So that is actually mode of. So anything that we do that is beneficial in the long run, 401k. Right? I want to take all the money and spend it right now for immediate gratification. Right? That is not Sattva Guna. But okay, I'm going to sacrifice some amount, and I'm going to deposit it so that actually it's there for me in my old age. Right? I'm not going to spend all the money, I'm going to save some of the money. So of course it can be a little bit painful. I mean, for Indians I think it's not that painful, but for many people here in the Western world it's very difficult for them, because they just want to spend right away. Right? So that's not Sattva Guna. So the third one is, of course, that's the only thing, which is Rajas. Rajas means I want gratification right now, in this instant, and I'll go for that. So it looks like nectar, right? That's why if you see people, everybody is excited going into the movie theater, right? Going to watch the movie. But whenever you see after the movie, everybody looks like, and especially the movie is bad, they are even more miserable actually. They are not that excited. Why? Because it's Rajas. It appears like nectar. Yes, this is going to give, fulfill, give me the fulfillment I'm longing for. But everything ends that the theater guy says, okay, go to your home, deal with your, someone on call. So you have to come back to the real world. And then so ends as poison. So that is Rajagun. So work are in the 3 modes. Do you want to go there? I mean, many of our dark secrets may come out. Okay, you're going to go. Okay, who wants to read? I'm just joking. I mean, the thing is, it's not to make us feel bad. It's make it, all these verses Krishna is giving us to make us aware where we are, what are the modes we are conditioned by, and how we can, how we can evolve to Sattva Guna and even beyond. So that's why Krishna is giving all these things. Okay, who wants to read?
One who is materialistic, obstinate, cheating, and expert in insulting others, and who is lazy, always morose, and procrastinating.
Yeah. Do you see some qualities? Why are you guys laughing? Yeah, we do see some qualities, right? Some days it's like this. So at least we can see. So what is this mode, do you think? Tamas. Correct. 50 points. So next one, who wants to read? Yes.
Attached to work and the fruits of work desire.
Oh, he's looking at you. I was looking, how is he? Does he have some mystic power? Yes, go ahead.
Attached to work and the fruits of work, desiring to enjoy those fruits, and who is greedy, always envious, impure, and moved by joy and sorrow.
Which mode do you think this is at? Rajas. Yeah, because they are attached to the fruits, and that's a motivation for working, right? Yes, 50k bonus. Yes, that's why I'm going to work hard, because when I get that 50k, then I can try to enjoy and fulfill my desires. That's why I'm working for, and that's why they are moved by joy and sorrows. Because not every we may like many things, but not every time we may get what we want. Right? And that's why they're moved. If they're not able to get that promotion or that bonus, then they feel dejected. But the reason is because of the attachment to the fruits of that work. So that is the motivation in Rajaguna. So fruits are the motivation in Rajaguna.
So what if you remove the last statement, who is greedy and below? Then what will it be?
No. If you are desiring to enjoy the fruits, this will be the result.
So enjoy those fruits means that you are developing COVID vaccine, right? And it is good for everyone. Then it will be.
No, again, let's read. Why don't you read the last one?
Okay. Perform his duty without false ego, with great determination and enthusiasm, and without wavering in success or failure.
There you go.
So that is Sattva-guna. So Sattva-guna doesn't mean it's inactive. Sattva-guna doesn't mean it's passive, but Sattva-guna means they are actually working for a higher cause. Like an example you said, so they are working for benefiting the whole world. Not for just money and such a person whose motivation is the higher purpose, then they remain enthusiasm. Even if they have failure or success, they don't get wavered by it, but they are focused on the duty.
Make money also, right? I mean, even in India,
right.
Those people have made big money.
Yeah, but that's not their goal. They can make big money. Like Arjuna also, no, I understand that. What I'm saying is, again, it comes down to what is the motivation. Right? Arjuna, is going to win this battle and is going to conquer the whole kingdom. Right? The Pandavas but that's not the motivation for why Arjuna was fighting the battle. The results may come, but that's not my motivation. My motivation is something higher. The results are not my motivation. So that's Sattva-guna. Yes.
A person can be a combination of each one of these.
Yes, there is always a mixture. There is always a mixture, but there can be a predominating mode. Or maybe in certain aspects they are conditioned by Rajaguna. In certain aspects they are.
It's situation.
Right. So they can also refine that.
Certain days.
Right.
Just wanted to add that, like although they have worked producing COVID vaccine and all, but there could be other side also. Like
somehow they succeeded in health, but all the research might have went bad also, like they could not produce the vaccine.
Right.
The
That can
result
also
be anything,
happen.
but
Yes.
motivation is to health.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Is there any factor of age? Because these modes, like
No,
kids
there's no
or
factor of age. It's more in terms of what we choose to cultivate. It's not a factor of age. It's how we choose to cultivate and make, how we choose to live our life. What are the choices we make, and what lifestyle we have. How we choose to live our life, that determines which mode we are conditioned. It's not necessarily age. It's about being thoughtful in our life.
It's also we observe this kind of modes. It's not like so.
Yeah, because they also come from a different, they come with a baggage, so they may exhibit some of these modes. Yes. Yes, absolutely.
No, but when they are very young, right?
Uh-huh.
They are just sleeping and doing
Yeah,
nothing.
of course, that is because they are growing up at that time, right? They are growing up at the time, and that's necessary for them. I mean, don't, take a bucket of water and no, that's why I said it's not excessive. It's very important. Sleep itself is not bad. Sleep. That's why, I even re-emphasizing this. Sleep is required. Sleep is important. But excessive and different people at different stages of life require different amounts of sleep. So we have to give that.
They are troubling parents.
We are not talking about 6-7 years old. We are talking about 14 years old.
Teens.
Yeah, that can fall in different buckets.
Then keep got the message.
I mean, also, you have to see, again, the transformation also, it has to be done step by step. One thing I would say is, even for ourselves, let's say, we get up, let's say 7:30, right? I mean, we cannot, overnight we cannot say, okay, now from tomorrow I'll wake up at 2:30 in the morning, right? We just have to shift, very gradually, like, maybe 15 minutes early, and then, stick with that for some time, and then 15 minutes early. So we have to also cultivate that. Different habits that we have, whatever we want to change, we have to do it gradually, and that also is mode of goodness. So passion is where it's unrealistic. Expectations are unrealistic. Passion is where okay, I put some money in the stock market today. 1 week I'm going to become that is actually the mode of passion, unrealistic. So food in the 3 modes. What do you think? Okay, we are not going to read. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to read all the 3.
Sattva.
Okay, Sattva,
Rajas.
Rajas,
Tamas.
Tamas. Yes, correct. So yeah, all the grains, vegetarian food, generally, it comes under the category of Sattva Guna. So Rajas means it's extreme, it's excessive again. So excessively spicy, salty, and so on and so forth. That is Rajas. Like for example, right, you can see the effect of it. If you really take some Rajas, excessive, spicy food, right? Somebody comes and argues with you. How will your temperament be? It will be, I want to punch her. At least, even if you don't do it, externally, but your temperament will be very agitated, right? So you can see how all these different kinds of food has an effect. And the tamas is where it has a dulling effect. There are many objects or food items in this world which has a very dulling effect. Like for example, Krishna here is saying about, there is spoiled food, especially all the meat and alcohol, drugs. All these are tamasic food because they bring your consciousness down. They dull, your consciousness. So that is tamasic. Okay, Diwali in 3 modes. This is addition by Shyam Prabhu. I think we can. Is it okay? We can skip this. I mean, maybe you can give this as an exercise and ask people to find Determination in 3 modes. Oh. So determination is also in the 3 modes. Which one do you think? I'll give you 20 seconds.
I can quickly read.
Mhm. Okay. Okay, read.
That determination which is unbreakable, which is sustained with steadiness by yoga practice, and which thus controls the activities of the mind, life, and senses.
Sattva.
That determination by which one holds fast to fruitive results in religion, economic development, and sense gratification. That determination which cannot go beyond dreaming, fearfulness, lamentation, moroseness, and illusion.
Good. Now you become an expert. Renunciation. Okay, I think.
Gives up prescribed duties because of illusion. Okay, we'll read more and then we'll get there. Gives up duties as troublesome out of fear of bodily comfort. Okay. We'll read the third one and get the answer. Performs duties because it ought to be done, free from material association and attachment to results.
I think we all agree on that. Okay, let's hear the answer. Tamas, Rajas, and Sattva. Good. Yeah. Charity in the 3 modes.
Charity performed at an impure place, at an improper time, to unworthy persons, and without proper attention and respect. Charity given out of duty, without expectation of return, at the proper time and place, and to a worthy person. Charity performed with the expectation of some return, or with a desire for fruitive results, or in a grudging mood.
Yeah. Some people just want their name on that. On the board, and that is charity in the mode of passion. And charity to an unworthy person at an improper time. That is actually charity. That charity will not elevate us. In fact, that person will use the charity. Like for example, if you give charity to an alcoholic, and then he takes a charity and drinks, and then he goes and fights with his family and does rubbish things. Now, who's going to be responsible for all those karmic reactions? Because that charity is not going to benefit that person, and charity is also not going to benefit you, because the charity was done in the mode of ignorance. So that's why charity also has to be very carefully calculated and performed. So charity has to be done to a worthy person, because he uses the charity for a higher cause, and so that it benefits him, all others, and also it benefits you. And that's how charity has to be done in the mode of goodness. Can we finish and then we'll come back? Austerity in the 3 modes. I think we can skip. Yes. So all these things. Sometimes another beautiful. So many verses are there. We are not going to cover all the verses. So Krishna says there are also different destinations for people conditioned in the mode of goodness. There is a different destination. Mode of passion. There is a different destination. If you die, in the mode of ignorance, there is a different destination. And then similarly, sometimes the mode of goodness becomes prominent, defeating the modes of passion and ignorance. Even the daytime is actually according to the modes. What is morning time? Sattva, yeah, the morning time. That's why it's good for meditation, because what predominates in the morning time? It's Sattva Guna. It's peaceful. Because, in the area we may not even see the difference. Sattva Guna, where is Sattva Guna? When does Raja Guna take? And then afternoon, it's Rajas. So much activity, people are running here and there and trying to do so many things. It's Rajas. And then night, Tamas. Right? And then, of course, that's why, the yoga talks about how one has to, as, things set in, Tamas, then one has to go take rest. And then, wake up early in the morning where Sattva begins, actually. But some people, in the Kali Yuga, you can see they start, they actually wake up through all the tamaguna, and then when sattva-guna starts, they go to bed actually. That should not be the case. That should not be the case. We should make use of sattva-guna because sattva-guna is very, very helpful for us. So here is another beautiful verse, Bhagavatam verse. It'll take 5 more minutes. Is that okay? So firewood is transformation of earth, but smoke is better than raw wood, and fire is still better. And for by fire, so basically here 3 items are compared. One is raw wood, smoke, and then fire. So what is the raw wood compared to? Tamas. The smoke compares to Rajas, and fire compares to Sattva. And by of course here the verse says, for by fire we can derive the benefits of superior knowledge through Vedic sacrifices. Similarly, Rajas is better than Tamas, but Sattva is the best because by goodness one can come to realize the absolute truth. Because goodness is actually like a platform, or you can say, you can think about goodness as a runway. Flight actually, for it to be airborne, what does it use? It uses a runway. And when there is a smooth runway, the aircraft uses that runway to gain enough speed to actually take off and become airborne. So similarly, Sattva is like that runway. So we can, when we cultivate Sattva Guna in our life, then it becomes like a runway to take off spiritually. So that's why Sattva is the best. Of all the 3 modes, Sattva is the best. Anyway, sorry, I've been taking a long time, but any reflections quickly, because we're running out of time. We have to employ some Rajas now. or Sattva. Any takeaways, any point you liked? Few of you can quickly share. Any questions? Anything that stuck with you?
You said baggages are going to cover like in future sections.
Which one?
The baggage. When I
The
asked
baggage
the
is coming
question,
from, yes, karma.
So because there
The
is
next
some-
topic, yes.
Next topic.
Yes. Yes.
It was good to see all the 3 modes in different areas like food and all those things. So it helps us even when we go to real life situations to get in the spots and select the actions we work with.
Yeah, very nice. Thank you, Rahul. Yeah, it's good to see the different how the modes are working, so that you can actually see in your real life how it's working. You can see in the office place. You can see in your neighbor, or you can see in your own family, or in yourself how these modes are working, or which modes I am conditioned by.
But then,
Good point.
how do we change the?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's why we'll come to the next section. Any other reflections? Any points you like? Yes, Anirudh.
So is the motivation more important? Like sometimes in some situations you have to act in other modes, right?
Mm.
So like your motivation can be in the Sattva Guna.
Mhm.
Is that more important, or like the situations make us to work in different modes?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, of course, that it may be the case, but that should not. I would say it should not. It should be an exception, not a general way of life. Especially for people who wants to come to Sattva-guna. So that it also helps, because being balanced, being regulated, being disciplined, and being thoughtful, exhibiting clarity, being happy, all these things are important. Being peaceful, all these things are important for us to go even beyond Sattva-guna to a spiritual platform.
So only to some situations where it's required to get you out of trouble or like whatever.
Right. I mean, Sattva-guna also means, Sattva-guna doesn't mean that you just have to be nice all the time. Sattva-guna means doing the needful. So, it will get covered in that. Okay. So 3 modes, even though Sattva-guna is best, but they are like 3 chains. Tamaguna means you have a chain made of iron. Rajoguna means you have a chain made of silver, and Sattva-guna means you are bound, but it's a chain made of gold. So I mean, yeah, you can be proud about that. I'm actually handcuffed by a gold chain.
Like everyone is hand-kept by all the chains, right?
Yes.
Because it is having mixture of all.
Yes. I mean, mixture of all these things, but I'm just saying, even goodness, more of goodness is binding to the material nature. We want to go beyond the goodness to the spiritual platform. Because even that is binding, even though goodness, it's a very high quality life, but still it's binding to this samsara, cycle of birth and death. So we want to go beyond it. So how do we break free of this bondage? So Krishna says, anyway, I'll skip the verses for now. So how do we transcend the modes? Huh?
Just like breaking free.
Right, but how do we break free? Who said that? A, B, C, D, yeah. Wonderful. Let's give a round of applause. That's how do we transcend the modes? It's actually by A, B, C, D. It's really by A, B, C, D. Just by applying the process of A, B, C, D. No, we will end all the sessions with the solution, which is A, B, C, D. So it's simplified actually. It's simplified. The solution is simplified for us. How do we transcend these modes? It starts with association, books, practice, mantra meditation, then following a diet. If we elevate our diet to sattvic diet, or even beyond to transcendental diet, here the food is Shyam's home. Many people. He prepares food, some of the items, and then he also offers it. If you see, sometimes they are offering it on the altar, so that becomes prasad, that becomes transcendental, it becomes spiritual. So, if we are able to change this A, B, C, D aspects in our life, then we will also slowly rise from whether you're tamaguna, rajaguna, a mixture of rajo and tamaguna, we'll be able to slowly rise to sattva-guna, and then we'll be able to even go beyond sattva-guna, which is called as shuddha sattva, which is called as transcendental platform or spiritual platform. So that's why we want to, by managing this A, B, C, D, then we'll be able to transcend. So with that, let's do 5 minutes of mantra meditation. What do you think?
Yeah.
Or 3 minutes of mantra meditation. 5 minutes, okay? So let's do 5 minutes of mantra meditation, because this is one of the powerful process by which it helps us to elevate or purify our mind from rajas and tamas to at least sattva. And if we continue it consistently, then it even promotes us from sattva gun to shuddha sattva, which is actually the transcendental platform or spiritual platform. Okay, so let's try this mantra meditation. We can all chant together. Are we giving beads out? No.
We're doing synchronous.
Okay, so we'll do synchronous. We'll do 27 times. So I'm going to count in my hand, and there's a way you can count in your hand if you're interested. You can also count in your hand, and we'll all chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra together. Ready, everyone?
Please don't sleep.
Well, it takes practice. Even if you sleep, it's okay. It takes practice to be attentive while chanting. So, just try to focus on the sound vibration. Like even sound are in different modes. Have you noticed it?
Yeah.
So flute music, what sound, what mode it is in? Sattva, yeah. Drums, hip hop. Many of the Bollywood songs. Rajas. Right? And then? Traffic sound, yeah, traffic sound. That's tamas. And similarly, there is transcendental sound. So this sound now what we are going to chant is spiritual sound vibration. It's transcendental sound vibration. So this actually awakens. It helps us to come from lower modes into higher modes. It purifies our mind like that. Okay. So we'll chant together. Before that, I'll just make a prayer to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates, so that we can take chanting. We can fully take advantage of chanting of this mantra. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. Thank you. Thank you all for participating in this chanting. Now I will hand it over to Shyam Prabhu for the rest of the announcements. And for next week's session, just wanted to so this is the summary we discussed today. Does external affect the internals? How does this like this one, right? So this is what we talked about. How do we see the three modes in action in our lives, and then how to transcend the three modes. So this is what we addressed today. So this is a summary of what we discussed today. And tomorrow, I mean not tomorrow. Next week. So this is we are going to talk about karma. So basically, why do bad things happen to good people? How does karma work? Then, basically the mechanism of karma and reincarnation will be discussed next week. So please join us for next week's session. Thank you.
As Prabhuji was discussing, I was thinking of GPS, Google Maps. So we know all of us have certain spiritual desires. We want to free ourselves of some of the bad habits that we have, that we want to get rid of, and somehow or the other go to a better destination. And the previous two sessions and this session is like showing us where we are currently. So without understanding where we are, it's very difficult to know how do I get to the final destination. So I was just thinking, many of the explanations that we see, as Sugandhiji was asking, I'm also like that person. Like, going fast gives us thrill. So it's actually happiness in the mode of passion. Actually, if we find happiness like that. And Krishna is telling, because of course there are very lot of background and we can contemplate and understand the deeper reasons on why some of these comments are so. But ultimately, as Prabhuji was mentioning, our intermediate goal should be to transcend, to come to the mode of goodness. Because when we come to the mode of goodness, one of the qualities is you have clarity. So you'll be able to see things in proper perspective. Otherwise, we think, yeah, why not do this? And it seems right in some context. And tomorrow you wake up and you think, no, that doesn't seem right. So coming to the mode of goodness is certainly an intermediate goal for most of us, most of our spiritual aspirants. We would want to get there. But ultimately, as Prabhu said, we want to transcend even goodness, because even in goodness, you're conditioned by happiness. You're happy for no reason. But you'll still be stuck in the cycle of birth and death. So you still have to go through the pains. Gold chain. I actually was looking for a gold chain that is thin, because in Tamogun, it's actually very, very difficult to break free. In Rajogun, it gets slightly easier. And in Sattvagun, it becomes the most easiest. But still, of course, the desire should be there to break free. You say, oh, what a nice gold chain, let me have it. You will continue to have it lifetime after lifetime. And the problem with birth, old age, disease and death that we discussed in the first session is nobody wants it. We take so much effort to build such a big, nice family, nice job, and situations like that, but taken away, and every time you have to start with ABCs, nobody likes that. So we thank Sundaranand Prabhu for being the Google Maps of our spiritual life. So let us give him a round of applause. Because he's showing us our current position. He's also telling us the final destination. We will get more clarity on that. I think right now it's a little vague yet.
Gita is a
real Gita. And then of course the path to get there is also very important, and these sessions will help us. So as usual, I have a few announcements. We will quickly thank the teachers who are taking care of the So we do have a few copies of Bhagavad Gita that we got from temple. These are on donation basis. You can give any donation you like. It goes to temple directly. But we do highly recommend. They actually did a research at Stanford, and after researching for a long time, they found out that you cannot read a book that you don't have. So please do take a copy for yourself. Yeah, at least you officially have taken one step in the right direction. So we will thank Pramila Garu and my wife Shama for taking care of the children. And also, while you have an opportunity, please do meet new people. When you're taking dinner, you can probably take with new people, understand their spiritual interests, and it usually inspires. I mean, every time I speak with someone new, I feel wow. Even though they're coming with so much baggage, so many difficult challenges, still, usually I go out of those discussions with more inspiration that I should be a better devotee myself. So please do meet new people. One kind request is please RSVP as soon as possible. Cooks keep complaining to me that you don't tell me the head count until Saturday afternoon. So those who cook, they know cooking begins, they have to shop, they have to get all the groceries and cut, and so please kindly help us with that. Of course, the other help is once they prepare, please do honor with all your heart and finish everything that we have.
No, I don't think that's a problem. That will be a problem.
Actually, I was realizing that after all these sessions, last week we were telling you should control the mind, and we were giving the examples of gulab jamun and all the sweets. I felt like a hypocrite. On one hand, we are telling don't eat too much. On the other hand, we are giving them please take this gulab jamun. Of course, as Prabhuji was saying, this is transcendent.
Shyam Prabhu has designed tests all around his home with people noticing, okay, how is he performing, applying the knowledge. No, just kidding. So he's kept a lot of secrets, secret tests actually, secret exams.
We have enough tests already, I think. So, Prashadam is purifying. I was telling to some people that this is, in one sense, Krishna's mercy. He knows. Actually, we do have. All of us have. The soul also longs for variety. Spiritualist doesn't mean no desires. I'm going to just sit in Himalayas, not doing anything. But really, we need to find happiness in the right things. So that's the whole point. Of course, we want to be balanced. So, but please do finish all the prashadam. And when you come back, please do. We'll wrap up these, and please do sit to the walls and make space so everybody can sit comfortably. We need few volunteers for folding and serving dinner and wrapping up as well. Also, when kids come back, please do ensure they don't make noise, and we do want to do this long enough so that neighbors don't complain. And, okay, cooks.
Now comes the important part.
We have a few people, they are so eager to cook and serve all of you, even though they have guests at home, so they signed up to cook, and they brought the items, and they did the kirtan and went back. So we want to thank Vanishri ji, Purnima ji, Priyanka, Sarita. She is not here, but I think represented by her husband. Forum and Devang, they also helped. Narmada ji, I don't know Ranga ji how much he helped, but we will clap for him also. And Gayatri ji, and rest of the items were cooked by my wife Shama, as usual. So, as usual, we'll go out of the So last week, Anirudh, and I think previous week, Ravindra, they helped us. The students are actually they're at a very important juncture, as I was mentioning. So thank you very much for driving them and bringing them also. Kalpana ji also drove them on 1 week. So we thank them by giving them that. So we will head out of the main door and come back in and take your dinner plates, and we will sit in rows so more people can sit comfortably inside. So thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you next week. Actually, I was thinking this is one of the most important things people come for these sessions. Why do bad things happen to good people? So we are looking forward to all of you back here with all your questions listed. Thank you very much.
We'd like to also give a round of applause to Shyam Prabhu and his good wife for really hosting this program at their home week after weeks of 90s.